Welcome everyone to our second part of our pet shop series. In this session, we are going to test the contract which we developed in our last session. So we'll have a overview of what unit testing is. We'll write 3 unit test cases and we'll run those test cases and see the results of them. Okay. So in our last session, we created our contract here and we put some logic in our contract, right? This contract, right? So now what we want to do is we want to write test cases for this one. So unit testing is the testing wherein we test the code, okay, whatever we have developed by checking at the logic we put, and then we cover test cases for each of the pieces of the logic, right? So in our case, we have this requirement wherein our adapters, the adoption can happen for maximum 16 pets, right? So we can create one unit test case which will check, okay, if we are below 16 or above 16 of our limit of adopters. Okay, so that's one example of a unit test where we are going to test that functionality. Okay, and similarly we will have other test cases as well, okay, which we'll get into detail. Okay, so to start with, the test cases are written in this directory, the test directory. Okay, so in our test directory we are going to write our test cases. So let me start with the first test case. We will have a single file, and within that file we will have 3 methods to cover 3 different unit test cases. Okay, now just like before, here also for testing we already have the code available to us. So you go to Ethereum demo solution folder. In our pet shop tutorial, we'll go to the testing folder. Hold on a second. Directory, you have the test directory, and this is our file. I'll copy it into this. Let's go through this file. So this is our unit test case file. Truffle gives you the framework wherein we can test our contracts, right? So in order to test our contract, we need to import our contract into the test file. So in this import, you will see there is adoption.sol. The contract which we wrote has been imported, and then there are 2 other imports that is for the Truffle unit test framework. And then we are creating another contract. So for unit testing itself, we will create a contract which will be deployed on the blockchain, and then we can do the unit testing. So here we are writing the contract. In that contract, what we are going to do is, first we are going to get the instance of we are going to store the instance of our contract into one variable. Okay, so since we imported our contract, we can create a variable, okay, of type adoption, of type contract adoption, and we can then assign it some value. Okay, now in our case we have this the Truffle framework provides you the deployed address sort of a contract which can give you the address of the deployed contract. Okay, so in our case, if you want to get an address, we can use this method, deployed address dot the name of the contract. It will return you that address. Okay, so this variable will hold the address. So then we are creating the first test case. This test case is for checking whether user can adopt a pet. Okay, so in our contract we did put the logic that a user can adopt maximum 16 pair. Okay, so in this test case what we are going to do is we are going to get the ID of the adoption variable. Okay, so in our adoption contract we had this variable, okay, adopters, right, which holds the value of all adopted pairs. Okay, so in our test case what we are trying to do is we are trying to use the adoption variable which holds the address of the adoption contract and trying to get the 8th variable in the adopt array. Okay, so in our contract we had this variable and we call this variable as adopters. Okay, right, and then we had this method called adopt, right. So this method was returning the pet ID of, if you provide it the pet ID, it will return that pet ID. Okay, so what we are doing here is we are calling that method with the 8th pet ID. Okay, and what we expect is we expect the same value to be returned, because in our method all we are doing is we are checking if that pet ID is between 0 and 15. Okay, if it is not, then it will throw an exception, otherwise it will return the same ID. Okay, so in our case, since 8 is between 0 and 15, the return ID value will be 8. Okay, and then we are having an assertion. In this assertion all we are doing is we are checking the return value with the expected value of 8, and if that is the case then this assertion will pass and this test case will also pass. So it's a very simple unit test case. Okay, not much in that. Okay, the second test case is we are testing the address of the adopter. Okay, so in this case you remember we have a variable which holds the address of the instance of adoption, right. So here we have the adoption variable which holds the address. Okay, and then we have this key called the keyword called this. So this returns the value of the contract address, okay, for this instance. Okay, so this is the expected owner for this contract. The next thing is we are calling the adoption.adopters 8. Okay, and this will return the address of the 8th owner. Okay, and here we are having the similar assertion. Okay, if the expected address is equal to the adopter address. Okay, so the second one what we are doing is, so in the first test case itself, in the first function itself, what will happen is this variable, adoption variable, will go and it will get an address, okay, from the blockchain, because we are calling this method and setting the value, and that address is getting stored in the adoption variable. And we can also refer to the value of the variable, the address, through this keyword. Okay, so what we are doing in the next test case is we are checking that the 8th address on the blockchain is same as that of the address of this instance of our adopter. Okay, so in the first test case we did the adoption. Okay, and the address, okay, of that instance of adoption, it can be referenced through this key variable. And then from the blockchain we are getting the adapter number 8, okay, and that address, okay, should be the same as this. Okay, so this test case is for this assertion is for testing that scenario. Okay, and the third test case is, if you remember, in our adoption we had one method to get all the adapters. Alright, so here we are just checking that all the adapters we get for pet 8, okay, are same as this particular instance. Okay, so again we assign the address to expected using this keyword and then get adapters. Okay, so it returns us an array of 16, and then we are checking the 8th address in that array is same as this instance. Okay, so these 3 test cases cover these 3 different scenarios. Alright, now we are going to test this. So again, for testing purpose you need to go to the terminal here, truffle test. So it will go to the test directory and it will run all the test cases. So now you will see it is compiling the test adoption, and now it is showing the 3 test cases we had, and all the 3 test cases are passing. Okay, so this is the testing framework which Truffles provide you, through which you can do unit testing for your contract on the blockchain. So this concludes our session on the second session which covered the unit testing.